I held three lives all at once for 20 years, and I thought I was being responsible. See, you can't broadcast a clean signal to the universe while you're keeping a backup plan out of fear. Now, most of us think we're being responsible by juggling three lives at once, showing up fully for our kids, maintaining a safe career to pay the bills, and quietly trying to birth a soulful calling on the side. See, we convince ourselves it's smart. We tell ourselves, yeah, it's practical. But underneath the surface, your nervous system is quietly frying itself. That constant heavy friction you feel, like you're running on a treadmill, working twice as hard just to stay in the exact same place. That is the literal energetic cost of a split signal. And I know that friction intimately. For 20 years, I held all three. I was a stay at home dad. I was in the parent council of the school. I volunteered in the classrooms. I cooked all the meals for the family. That was my primary role during the day. And I was a commercial photographer. Decades of clients, a reputation built since 1980. But when our son was born, I moved the studio from commercial space to home so I could be present rather than have the kids in daycare. So in the evenings, often until midnight or later, I was shooting client work, getting it ready for the next day. And underneath all of that, I was the guy waking up at 3 a.m., knowing there was a completely different transmission I was supposed to be sharing with the world. Constantly building the metaphysical work, building spirit fractals, working on my own clearing. Every time I'd have a breakthrough, clients would appear. I'd do alignment sessions, fractals, work with people on a soul level, and then I'd disappear back into myself to clear whatever came up so I could be clear enough as a host for the next transmission. And I thought I was being responsible. I thought I was being smart. What I didn't realize was that my body was carrying the cost of my hesitation. We like to think this friction is just psychological stress. It's not, it's physics. Look at what neurocardiology actually reveals in chapter 4 of the book. The heart is not just a pump, it's a frequency generator. Your heart is the most powerful electromagnetic organ in your body. It emits a field that extends several feet beyond your skin, one that's 5,000 times more magnetic than the brain and 100 times more electrically powerful. But here's the kicker: it communicates, not just to your organs, not just to your cells, but to your field, to the quantum mirror, to the universe, to others. And when your heart is in coherence, meaning your emotional state is harmonious, calm, aligned, everything else begins to follow its rhythm. Your breath deepens, your thoughts soften, your brain waves synchronize. Your nervous system uncoils like a spring finally exhaling. You stop surviving and you start transmitting. Yes, your heart literally has a mind of its own. And here's what that means in plain language: your heart isn't just pumping blood, it's broadcasting a signal. It's reading the room. It's making decisions about what's true and what's false, what's aligned and what's a compromise. And it can't lie. Your mind, your mind is a master storyteller. It can convince you of almost anything. It'll tell you, yeah, I'm being responsible. This is just a season. Once the kids are older, I'll have the time for my real work. Once I build a business more, I'll have the money to invest in the spiritual path. The mind will justify a divided life for decades because it thrives on safety. It's incredibly convincing while it's doing it, right? But your body carries the truth. And if you've been feeling a strange friction lately, like something in you is being stretched to its absolute breaking point, like you're performing three different versions of yourself and none of them are getting your full presence, it's because your nervous system is broadcasting exactly what it feels: divided. I carried this for a long time: photographer, active dad, spiritual architect. That's not ambition, that's burnout dressed up as responsibility. See, on the surface, I looked like I had it all figured out. I was the I was present with my kids. I was maintaining a high-end professional reputation. I was writing the books and building the channel on the side. But the field, the quantum mirror, doesn't reward clever strategies or hedges. It doesn't respond to maybe, it responds to an uncompromised baseline signal. And my baseline signal was, I'm not sure. I'm holding on to all three because I'm terrified to let go of any one of them. I need the income. I need to be the perfect parent. I need to do the soul work. And somehow magically, I'm going to make a split broadcast work. Except it doesn't work that way. Coherence, real coherence, doesn't mean doing three things kind of well. It means doing one thing with your whole nervous system in total alignment. And then COVID hit. Instantly, I lost all my corporate clients overnight. Everything shut down. So I pivoted. I started working for Fluid Design, building rowing shells out of carbon fiber. I became their R&D manager and rebuilt parts of their design. Then I became their marketing director and did all their photography, rebuilt their website, their social media, all their literature. I was bringing in camera equipment to those shoots that were worth at least 6 months of my salary, and nobody noticed. So in that process, I felt completely underutilized, undervalued. And I just knew that it wasn't my path. But I could still convince myself it was practical, it was necessary, it was responsible, at least until I went to the Dominican Republic. So 2 years back, early May, Jen and I did a breathwork workshop there. Deep work, the kind where you venture far off and suddenly everything just falls into place. And what came through was clarity. None of this wishful maybe someday, but total clarity. And what became so clear was, I needed to focus on the metaphysical work and only the metaphysical work. And that's all that would truly feed who I am as a soul. It was the only thing that would have my whole signal. Everything else was a fragment. And suddenly I could see the path. And for the first time, I could actually see it underneath my feet. I could feel it, solid, real. Where before I had all this information, all these tool sets, all these talents, and I had no idea how to use them or where they would fit. Now I could see a way forward. Here's the thing though, clarity and commitment aren't the same thing. The clarity built over the summer, right? It wasn't rash. The money at Fluid Design, that was helpful. The paycheck was real. Walking away from steady income for the unknown, that's not an easy choice. Now, it wasn't difficult because I knew what was right, but it was still real. So then August 8th, 8 o'clock in the morning, exactly to the second, I'd handed in my resignation. Now, by then the kids were, young adults. 20 years of being as a present father, they were in university now, on their own path. Everything converged into this one moment. And that was the moment I committed 100% to one path. So looking back, I realized something. If I didn't commit fully, Shavira would never have come through. The 5 books that followed would never have materialized. The transmission would never have happened. The cost of not choosing was higher than the cost of choosing. Okay, let's take the spiritual romance out of this for a second. True alignment doesn't happen in meditation. It happens in what you're realistically willing to sacrifice. Here is the literal price tag of integrity. Right? For me, it meant giving up reliable income. Not a little, a significant amount. The kind of money that paid for stability. That gave us options. Jen is an executive director, and her income became the foundation that made this possible, but still, I'm making choices that are more difficult now. It meant telling photography clients that I'd shot for throughout those years that I'm no longer available. You need to find someone else. And you're releasing deep professional relationships built over decades. It meant releasing an identity. When people asked what I did, I could no longer say I'm a photographer. That armor's gone. It meant real uncertainty. The I don't know how we're paying for the next month kind, the heavy, honest conversations that we had together about recalibrating our entire lifestyle. It meant facing a truth I'd been avoiding for 2 decades. If I'm going to do the spiritual work, if I'm going to broadcast a clean signal, then I can't hedge anymore. I can't keep photography as a safety net while I try the spiritual path. That's not faith. A backup plan isn't a strategy. A backup plan is fear, and the field mirrors that fear right back to you. But I wasn't really prepared for what came next. When I finally chose, the marketplace didn't reward me immediately. My books, they're in their infancy. My channel's just getting started. Revenue is insignificant. YouTube is slow. Right? It's not the overnight thing the gurus will tell you and keep selling to you. Book sales from indie publishing, they're a lot of work. And the income, it's building. But it's not significant yet. By all external metrics of the mind, I am unproven. I don't have a track record of the field responding with immediate wealth. And what did happen is my nervous system adapted. It shifted into total, absolute peace almost immediately. Because suddenly, there wasn't a gap anymore. I wasn't broadcasting, I'm the photographer also doing spiritual work. There was just one clean signal. I'm here. This is what I'm doing. This is my frequency. When I had the steady paycheck at Fluid Design, I'd wake up at 3, 4 in the morning, panicked about bills, even when everything was running full tilt and the money was good. Even then, now that doesn't happen. And if it does, if some old anxiety surfaces for a moment, I connect into my heart space, and within 2, 3 minutes, everything dissolves and aligns. There's a knowing that it'll work, a knowing that it'll break open. I'm not talking about blind faith or wishful thinking, a knowing. And I don't question it. I don't worry about it. I stay aligned, I stay true, and I stay connected. And step by step, I see everything falling into place. The YouTube channel's growing, not because I'm working harder, but because the transmission is clean, uncompromised. The books are finding readers who feel the weight of that alignment. And that's the part the mind doesn't get. It thinks safety keeps us alive, when it's actually alignment that feeds us. It thinks you need proof before you can be at peace. But the truth is simpler. You can give up the reliable income, face complete uncertainty, watch your work sit in its early stages, and still be fully at peace, because you're finally broadcasting something true. The field doesn't require you to have succeeded before you deserve coherence. It just requires you to have chosen it. And that choice is what feeds the soul. Not the outcome, the choice itself. Right? We live in a culture that tells us to hedge our bets. Keep your options open. Have a backup plan for your backup plan. But there's an immense relief in finally getting honest enough to look at the gap between what you're saying and what you're actually broadcasting. If you're holding onto a job that's soul-sucking just to stay safe, if you're keeping one foot out of the door of your true calling, if you're trying to be a present parent while building a business while honoring a creative path, if you're broadcasting, I'm committed, while your nervous system is screaming, but what if it doesn't work? It's not because you lack talent or you're malfunctioning. It's just that your energy is split. And the field isn't punishing you for that. It's just beautifully, ruthlessly mirroring your hesitation back to you. Alignment isn't about fearless. It's about letting your words and your nervous system finally say the exact same thing. I'm here. This is my signal. This is what I chose. So when chapter 4 talks about coherence being about integrity, not positivity, this is what it means. It means getting honest enough to see the gap and brave enough to close it. It means choosing one thing fully and trusting that what your heart knows is infinitely more reliable than what your mind can rationalize. The heart is the architect, not your strategy or your 5-year plan, your heart. And once you listen to it, once you let it lead, you don't have to convince anyone anymore. You just have to be true, and the field responds to that instantly. That's what 20 years of holding 3 frequencies taught me. That the body knows things the mind will take decades to understand. And that sometimes integrity means letting go of everything you thought defined you, just so you can finally broadcast what actually does. The heart doesn't negotiate, it just knows. And when you finally listen, everything shifts.